How's it going, Thomas?
What is happening?
We are having a lot of fun today. We're going to be interviewing someone very special to me. She is Vice Chief Dr. Jody Noe. Gwen and I are members of the tribe that she is the Vice Chief of.
Nice.
And we have a sad topic, though. We're talking about the murdered, missing Indigenous women, or actually Indigenous people.
Yeah.
And Dr. Jody has done some tremendous work bringing this information to the forefront for people to understand. The awareness is so critical. And May 5th is Wear Red Day on this situation. So let's go ahead and bring Jody in. What's up, Doc?
Joe.
Gwen wanted to say hello to you.
I can't hear her right now.
Joe, Gwen.
Gwen wanted to say hey.
Hey, I will see you on the 3rd.
Congratulations on the chief inviting you into the tribe.
I'm so honored. I just don't even know how to put it in words.
It's a big deal.
It is huge for me. I'm gonna cry.
We only have less
huge.
than a handful of associate members because you guys are our allies.
Yes.
Mhm.
We advertise and everything as much as possible and do anything we can for you guys. The whole tribe.
Yeah, we'll see you volunteering for us. That's pretty sweet.
Yes.
Yes. She's going to be doing the front door. May 3rd is the powwow. We just talked about it, showed the commercial. If you are near Pickens, South Carolina, please come out and support the Eastern Cherokee, Southern Iroquois, and United Tribes of South Carolina as we celebrate a family day, basically, where we get together and we celebrate our ancestors and we're training our descendants of our people and what we do.
Right.
And we'll have dancing, we'll have food, we'll have lecturing and storytelling, and there's a luck of the draw. I've got my
A lot of
dance.
music. We're gonna have a lot of music.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have been our chief brought this powwow to the people, and I believe this is our 4th powwow. It started out with basically us, me and the chief. And the chief I have to shout out to Chief Lamar Nelson because you have interviewed him as well, but he really has went all over the South Carolina state to educate people on our tribe and also to invite everyone to our annual gathering. And so thank you, Chief, for all your hard work. And thank you, Latrina, for being one of our reverend tribal council members. So Latrina is in our government as our tribal council member. So that being said, as Latrina said, May 5th is our federal national Remembrance Day for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, as it was written in 2018 when it was acknowledged. Now, what people might not realize is why May 5th, um, and why are we still working off of statistics from 2016? Well, we have one set of statistics, and those were taken from the National Institutes of Justice in 2016. And it was only in 71 cities. It's supposed to be a nationwide survey of missing and murdered Indigenous women. It was only 71 cities, okay? All of those cities were west of the Mississippi, except for one, which was North Carolina. So apparently there's only one city or state in the United States that has Indigenous women in it, in the east of the Mississippi. So you can see how the data that we're talking about is fairly skewed to west of the Mississippi, because remembering that Oklahoma, which is Choctaw for land of the red man, is where most people were deported to when they had to immigrate off their land. Immigrate with an E. They weren't immigrating with an I. They were being removed and deported. And so that's west of the Mississippi. But your first contact tribes are here, east of the Mississippi. In South Carolina, our tribe is a first contact tribe. So Northeast, the Northeastern natives, and the Carolina, before Virginia, we were first contact. And so our missing and murdered Indigenous issue starts there, 1520. This is not a new issue. This is a very, very old issue. I have ancestors that are MMIW from back then. So the reason why those colonizers came to South Carolina was for a new commodity called slavery, and the first enslaved people were native people from this country being brought to Europe. So let's start with that story. You know, we native people like to tell our facts and stories, so I'm going to do it out of that. Can you see? Okay, I can turn this light on. It's getting dark over here. Let me know if you need me to turn this light on, okay?
Okay.
So how did the pirate Christopher Columbus find out how to get here? There was no map. Nobody gave him a map. It's actually documented in Portuguese. So Portuguese was one of the first colonizers of South Carolina, and they came here for the commodity of people. And those people were our people. And so the Portuguese told Columbus, you don't have to have a map. You can just follow the bodies of dead Indians floating in the ocean. So our first story of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples will start there in 1520. Prior to Spanish, there were the Portuguese. So 1490s, before Columbus, there were the Portuguese here. So I'm not sure all the dates, but I'm telling you this history to know that our issues in east of the Mississippi have been long. Same thing with my sister tribes in the Northeast. They're missing and murdered Indigenous people. They have contact at 1100 with the Vikings. Now, the Vikings didn't steal anybody, but they might have, had some fun, so to say. We're in South Carolina, so I'm going to be nice. Yeah, but, they might have left somebody, but they didn't steal nobody. And but the people who they next contacted to tell them how they got here started stealing people in New England. So the missing and murdered is a long thing of genocide for our people. We're talking about a genocide. And why are we talking about a genocide of one group of people over hundreds and hundreds of years? Because they reduced us to non-human. And that's part of the other problem here, is we became tokens. We became some put us in the categories of cattle, if you will. So chattel, how do you designate chattel? By blood quantum. That's how. What is their quantum of purebred blood? And we are the only humans, Native American people are the only humans with quantum blood to recognize ourselves. Now, that's not how we think. That's not how we're taught to think. That's how we were colonized to think. Because in our original understanding, one drop of native blood makes you native. It doesn't matter what your quantum is.
Thomas is also indigenous, and he's a criminal profiler. So he wanted to come on to bring awareness to this and offer maybe some insight as to how this is continuing. And I think you've got your finger right on it, because those people of desperate intention and murderous intention will go to a place where, you know.
That's a whole nother story, though. See, there's a whole nother story there. Reservations. So let me come back. Y'all are too fast for me. So
Sorry,
that
dear.
quantum makes us tokens. We're exotic. We are less than human. Sometimes we're more than beautiful. We are stronger than human. We are exotic. And so therefore we're like a dog or a hybrid horse or a hybrid cattle. Those are the things, those animals that you use quantum. And so we are reduced to animals. So therefore it's very easy to take us and steal us and make us non-human to do that. So you feel less guilty about serial killing Native women than you do about white women. And that's how the media shows and portrays us. So yes, there's a lot of statistics from the 2016. We also have serial killers that use us as the token. We also have the issue with federal tribes. So if you're a federal tribe and you have a federal reservation and you're a white guy and you come on the tribe, they cannot prosecute you for the crime you do on their land. That's the big issue up here in Northeast, because the federal tribes up here are what started the casino industry.
Yeah.
Now we have another issue. So
that's right where I am, Northeast.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You guys are together. You guys are within just a little bit of each other.
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut.
Me too.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. So up here, it was the Mashantucket Pequots that were the poorest of the poor that started the whole casino industry. Now we have a draw for these people to come and not only play, but there's a mask of anonymity, right? There's a mask of anonymity because lots of people come to the reservation to play on the casino. With your reservations without casino, it's a little bit harder, but still we're only talking about 22% of the MMIW from reservations. While one in 3 women will be murdered. 3 out of 5 women are murdered on the reservation. That's 1 in 3. The third leading cause of death in women are murder. But it's not MMIW, it's violent intimate partner violence. Yep. That's different than the MMIW. Only on the federal reservations, only 22% of missing and murdered Indigenous people come from the reservation. Where are they coming from? Urban Indian groups, state groups, people who are disenfranchised and disconnected from their tribe, much easier to steal. Genocide. We're still talking about the same story of genocide through the ages. But, you know, I started working on this. I started working with this conscientiously in 2016 when I was part of the medic healers of the medic healers camp of the Sacred Stone at the protest at Standing Rock. And they had invited me to come because I practice decolonized medicine. I'm 30 years now practicing medicine with a license. 45 as an herbalist without a license.
I know you're. She's my doctor.
I just told him. And the medic healers. This was the medic healer symbols.
Yep.
So the medic healers, I learned a lot because we I was invited by both the Medic Healers Council and the leaders of the group, which were the Two Spirits. So the Two Spirits took direction from the grandmas, and that's how the whole thing started.
Mm-hmm.
So the Two Spirit camp was huge, and of course, that's me. So we had a lot of time to talk, and they wanted, and I was also doing medicine. But that's where I heard about the man camps. The man camps in the Dakotas, which are the source of most of the murdered Native women in the Dakotas. Then I started and then I started hearing about the Two Spirits, because you always hear about the missing and murdered Indigenous women, but the two-spirited people are just as much stolen. So think about that. The culture that hates Two Spirits. Two Spirits is our Indigenous word for non-binary people.
Mm-hmm.
Some may be trans people, some may be non-binary people, some may just be gay or straight, or gay or lesbian people. But we really just call all of the Indigenous people like that as two-spirited, because
That's nice. I like that.
Because they have two spirits, like me. I can see from my man's eyes, and I can see from my woman's eyes. And you can hear me. You can hear from my man's voice, and you see my female presentation. So some of us are just born that way, two-spirited. And I have lots of youth. I have been out since 1975. So I have lots of people that I've worked with all my life. But the Two-Spirit comes out of a convention in Seattle that we had. And I was living in Seattle at the time. It must have been like 90 or 91. And that's where that word came from. It's an Indigenous word for the LGBTQ. That is a group that is just as stolen as the women. And where's the report on the Two Spirits people? So the Indigenous communities are reporting it. For example, in 2016, they had reported 5,712 missing and murdered Indigenous women. Only 116 cases were open.
Isn't that awful?
There's still over 5,000 people missing today. Over 90% of the missing and murdered Indigenous women never come back alive. They don't come back at all, or they don't come back alive.
You think they're trafficked?
Absolutely. And in the East Coast, they're trafficked down Highway 95, and Highway 95 hooks up to 40 West. 95 hooks up to the three major highways, interstates that go west: the north, the middle, and the south. And so it's going to go down 95 either to Florida and off a boat, or it's going to go down 95 and across to the west. They're absolutely trafficked. And think of us in the East Coast. We are mixed. Most of us are mixed Native people, which makes us even more exotic. It makes us even more exotic. We also live in a place, South Carolina. The Native Americans, we have a collateral genocide going on as well. Native Americans west of the Mississippi don't even acknowledge that the Native Americans east of the Mississippi still live in the same place that they stayed.
Yep.
So that's a true thing. And when you look at the map of the missing and murdered Indigenous people, east of the Mississippi doesn't even report it, except for North Carolina.
So amongst the people on the outside, as you're saying, that have their own thing, and it's different than on our side, is there a way of getting everybody together, Indigenous, to talk about this and try and come up with a solution?
It's us. The women are doing it. The women are the leaders. The women have always been the leaders. We've always been matrilineal, and it is the women. So I want to explain to you some of the symbols and the information that you see, so that you can pass the information, audience, into your families and to your friends. So right there, that's a big piece of information that nobody talks about, that my friend and I, Janice Golden Feather Bliss, who I'm on her board, she created the Sweetgrass Cultural Enrichment, because we decided when I came back from Standing Rock, and and I was talking to her, and we decided that we were going to go to all the powwows up here, and we were going to bring a red tent informational. Because I was telling her how in my women's conferences, we bring a red tent for women. It's a whole movement, the red tent movement for women. That's another topic. I have to take my hat off for that one. But the red tent, so we bring an informational booth, and all of the tribes, most all the tribes up here have let us set up as vendor for free because we're not selling anything. And what we're doing is giving information on these statistics, because then that goes to the next person. That goes home, that goes to your daughter, your granddaughter, whoever was. And we have a lot of men coming up to learn about it at that. But we also created the round dance. So the round dance is not what we created. The round dance is a regular powwow dance, but we created the red dress round dance. So at every powwow that we attend, and at our powwow, I brought it to our powwow. We've done it now for 2 years in a row. This will be our 3rd year. We do a round dance. All the women come in together. All the women, doesn't matter if you're Native or not. All the women come in together, and we do a holding hands round dance. But before we dance, the women all come in, and then we ask our warriors to come in and stand behind us in the circle as our protectors, as they should be. And that's their spiritual place, is to have our backs, literally.
Yes. I have a question for you. Really look at this from your perspective. We talk about all the women and all that exploited, murdered, and all that. What about the 2-spirited men?
That's the ones they go for.
What's the reaction to that? Is it something same, totally different? That's
who they're going for.
Yeah.
Every indigenous culture that's close to their indigeny knows that we are not binary people.
Yeah.
The Hawaiians, the Maori, the Maoli, the Kanaka Maoli, the Dede. Everyone knows that we have these holy people like me that are born this way. The most exotic is the male that presents as female has always been the most exotic to the colonizing mindset, because it's not really a color, it's really a mindset. And so, yes, just as it is in LGBTQ areas everywhere, the point of contact for the 2-spirit is the male that presents as female, not the female that presents as male. You know, I've had some people try to get me, but I fight hard and I hurt. And I've then learned how to fight after being attacked and raped and all those things that happen to you.
Yeah.
So that violence happens to women anyways, and then more so to 2-spirit or LGBTQ women that present as masculine. That was a big thing that happened to a lot of us. And then when you throw the Native in there, I'm just like this token of a shiny object that a crow wants to peck at. And so that's where that male, that effeminate man that you may think is an effeminate man that we call as a male presenting female, he's the shiniest, or she's the shiniest, or they're the shiniest of all. And so that's the ones that they get, and that's the ones that are not they're probably being reported because your relatives love you, but they're not put in the database. There are no cases. But we know because we report. So we have our own networks. We've set up our own networks. On my Facebook feed, I am always flashing folks who are missing all over the continent, Canada and Mexico, well, not all of Mexico, but Canada included in that, missing and murdered Indigenous women. It is mostly women and girls. Yeah. Most of the people that are stolen, the average age is 29 years old. They have stolen 82-year-olds. They have stolen babies.
Yeah, I saw that.
The average is for sex trafficking. You can almost put that data together.
I've got a poster. Let me put it up real quick of a child missing. He's so beautiful. Trevor Tomason. If you've seen this young man, please reach out to your authorities. Please circulate this. Please share it.
So May 5th, why May 5th? Why did we pick May 5th as National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls? Because it's the birthday of a 21-year-old. Her name, Hannah Harris.
Yeah.
She's Northern Cheyenne. She went missing and was found murdered on that reservation in 2013. In 2013. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I started off this conversation with, let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
This is an epidemic. This is a public health crisis for us. That's how this should be looked at.
This is a generational curse.
You're exactly right, because you really got to look at it. Any Indigenous, out of anybody in North America, the Indigenous have the highest rate of violence committed against them. 4 out of 5 Indigenous women will have violence against them.
Yes.
That's 85%. Sexual violence is over 56%. So you're talking 1 out of 2 Indigenous women are going to be sexually assaulted. So,
and 1 out of 3 are going to be murdered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So why is that okay? Now that's happening in South Carolina. That's happening all over the East Coast. I have there are so many missing Indigenous girls, and since since the last 3 years when I put South Carolina on my radar, doing this information and bringing it to South Carolina. I mean, just bringing the 2016 statistics to South Carolina, the tribes didn't know it. The tribes aren't following it, or the tribes, we've got so much to just exist in South Carolina. And we're first contact. There was no North Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina was South Carolina. Then we annexed off North Carolina because Charleston was the slave port.
Yeah.
But before it was the slave port in 1619, 1620 for the Africans, it was the slave port for us, the native people. That's where they were being shipped out.
But that's a big port for pirates too. You're going up and down the East Coast there into Georgia, Savannah, that area, up into South Carolina, North Carolina, all that spot, So it's that's where you're going to get that kidnap, make them work on the ship,
use them for sex.
Yeah, exactly. So
I want you guys to see a picture of Vice Chief Jody. Here she is giving this exact same representation at a rally. And I believe this is the lady you were talking about. Is that her?
That is.
You're on her committee. So
yeah, she's my friend.
She's beautiful.
She's done a lot of work. And like us, there's a lot of state tribes here in the Northeast. Yeah. There's a lot of, I call them under-recognized people. Like my friends who's the chief of the Pokanoket, who just got 250 acres back from Brown University. They're not recognized by anybody. They're recognized by themselves and other native people that live around them. They're not recognized by any government. But that there's a bond here of that sisterhood of tribes. Maybe it bonded from trauma or, the Pequot massacre. There's a lot of things that happened here, just like in South Carolina, where they do watch out for each other. And that's what we don't have in South Carolina right now.
Exactly right. You are.
We have more the dog trying to eat the bone, where they don't realize we can break the bone and share it. If we could do that, and if we could, that's a good example. So we do the round dance and we do the informational, and we're changing it. Our head woman, I asked her the first time she came to be our head woman if she would put a red hand on her face.
Yeah,
she did. And I'll explain the red hand for your audience in a moment. And when she put the red hand on her face at the end, I said, will you please take this dance? I said, we're going to do a round dance. Do you know how to do a round dance? She said, yes. I said, will you lead it? Yes, she's our head woman. I said, will you take this dance and that red hand to every powwow? Because she's the head dancer for many. Her name is Lisa Lino, and she's the head dancer for many of the powwows in South Carolina. She did more than that. She took the dance to every powwow. She wears the red hand now as part of her regalia. She changed her regalia which already was red and black and white, the right color. But she changed it. We all do our own regalia. Like I paint my hat and put beads on my feathers, and she changed it to the MMIW. She championed that by moving it forward just with a little information. So the red hand, you'll see a lot of red hand or black. The red stands for the missing. The black stands for the murdered.
Yeah.
And the red is our holy color of warriors, but also red is one of the colors that we think our ancestors can see from the stars.
Mm-hmm.
So we wear red for many reasons that way. But one of them is for that our ancestors can see us from the stars. I'm going to turn this on. Y'all might have to.
The red, I look at it, the red is so we're able to see on both sides of the veil. So we're
that's
able to see our
beautiful.
spirit ancestors and everything. So the ones that are around us, the ones that are missing and looking for our help and want to be remembered. So, yeah.
But there's a reason we chose that color.
Yeah.
And it is our color also as women.
Mm-hmm.
As life givers.
Oh, yeah, that's
as
true.
life givers.
I've got a picture. Here we go.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. And here is a regalia picture.
There we go. Yeah. Yes, my granny made that ribbon shirt for me before she died.
Oh,
so the
nice.
red hand is kind of like you were saying, the voices of those that are missing and maybe even murdered. But you might see now the black hand. The black hand means they had a family member that got murdered. If they're wearing that when they wear their regalia, they are a survivor of a murdered, missing Indigenous person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to know. And then you see the ribbon skirts.
Yeah.
And so we'll wear those ribbon skirts. Very important. The ribbon skirt's very cultural. It's cultural to Indigenous Native Americans. Okay. And the ribbon skirt came out of colonization, if you would, out of changing our life ways and giving us sacks of flour or whatever. We're going to make clothes out of them.
Yep.
So but the women's bodies, the reason we wear the ribbon skirt with the ribbons on the bottom, because the women's bodies are what ties spirit and earth together as life givers. Okay. We are holy just because we are born that way, because we can give life. All of nature is female dominant. You eating fruit, that's female. You're eating plants, you're eating fruits, seeds, nuts. Those are all female offspring. Okay. So it's the domination of nature. And that's also why we're targeted, because we are born holy already, shiny. See what I'm saying? Crows and shiny things. So that's pretty important, that the ribbon skirt is something that we all chose, particularly as our regalia for the MMIW. So the red and the ribbon skirt are very particular. But I really want you all to realize that east of the Mississippi, I have a map of the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And east of the Mississippi, New York reported some, Florida reported some, because they have the Seneca.
Yep.
The Seminole, the Seneca up north in New York, the Seminole down south.
Yep.
And the Haudenosaunee in New York, on the border there. Otherwise, crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the Eastern Cherokee Band? North Carolina. I'm just the Catawba, South Carolina. I'm just talking about federal tribes. Never mind the Lumbee, the Eastern Cherokee, Southern Iroquois. We have lots of natives all over the East Coast in tribes arranged as tribal governments that are invisible. That's part of the problem, is our invisibility. So we're going to stand up more visible, because being invisible now is not working for our people. Because if you're invisible, nobody knows you're missing. Right?
Do you think a lot of it's out of a lot of these tribes that aren't reporting? You think it's out of fear, or
No, they're reporting.
Backlash that they might get living on reservations, and you don't want that taken away. I know it's protected, but
no, they're reporting. They're reporting.
They are reporting. They don't have a lot of resources, though, do they? In order to, because
Well,
that's a lot of property. Exactly.
The reservation, the federal tribes can report to their federal database, but who do we report to? We're going to report to the police.
I found you a map. Hold on. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's kind of blurry.
It is blurry, but you can see there.
But that's something else. That's not the right map. That's not the right map.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's something else.
Okay, let me get that out of here.
It looks more like Canada there.
Yeah, what I'm talking, that's Canada. The paper genocide, the residential schools, the Indian Child Welfare Act, the Indian Removal Act that was still happening in the 70s. You could buy an Indian child in the 50s. When I was born in 59, you could buy an Indian child for $10.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah, I gave that document to the chief. So there's a lot of that's part of this. It's a genocidal thing. It's a historical trauma, like I was saying, for hundreds of years.
I did not know that.
It's not as easy as sex trafficking. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Sex trafficking is the buzzword for the 21st century. Yeah. But we've been sex trafficking my people since you first got here.
Yeah. I want you to see some of these faces of victims. Now there's so many thousands, but I want this to be more real for people. I know that's a little blurry, but look at these beautiful faces that are
all kinds of colors,
all kinds of colors, all kinds of ages,
all native people.
And here we go. You are not forgotten. No more stolen sisters. Look at this child.
That's his mama.
Yep.
So we all
There's suffering here.
We all now have our current missing woman, Emily Pike. Yep. And so we're using her name. We're going to say her name, and we got to remember Miss Harris's name. That gives us the 5th day national awareness. We've got to remember that, it's not just sexual violence, like you're saying, the physical, verbal, the oppression, the collateral genocide, the invisibility. All of that is part of this epidemic, this crisis. For us, it's a crisis. It's an epidemic. And we've done a little bit since 2016. We had Savannah's Act in 2018. And I have to say that was one of the best things the Department of Justice did after the 2016 information from the National Institute of Justice. They created the Savannah Act, which was to help kind of look at protocols on why there was only 116 reported cases out of 5,712 missing people. So looking at the tribal police versus the city police versus the FBI. So that really helped, because part of it was nobody was talking. The tribal police wasn't talking to the local police. The FBI can't go on. The BIA can go on to the federal reservation, but nobody is supposed to go on. So that really helped with sharing of information. Okay. Yeah. So that was an important one. The Not Invisible Act happened in 2020, and that was a complement to the Savannah Act. So that helped in making the violence on Indian lands now a punishable crime. And that was named after Savannah, who was killed by a non-native person on a federal reservation, and they couldn't prosecute that man because he was non-native and he killed on the reservation. So the Savannah Act. So that Savannah Act, so we're kind of put a little juice into that Savannah Act with the Not Invisible Act. Okay, so now you can't go on to federal reservation and kill someone and get away with it.
Yeah. I've got a picture of our sweet girl, Emily.
Let's put her up. So
look at her beautiful little face. Emily Pike, a member of the San Carlos Apache tribe, was found dead and brutalized near Globe in Gila County after being reported missing from her group home in Mesa. and her death sparked an international outrage over missing and murdered Indigenous women, leading to protest vigils and renewed calls for legislation. Thank God. Bless that baby's heart. Oh my God.
That's right.
It's a big problem because the other thing, being a criminal profiler and all that, we really depend on things getting reported. Because when you look at patterns, if a pattern's missing, you can't 100% solve what's going on. So if these things aren't being reported and pushed off to the side, we're not getting the full picture. And without the full picture, it's hard to track down this pattern to even get help for these women. You're at a standstill till everybody, government-wise, law enforcement, all talks to each other, and other tribes talk to each other from across the country, all the way up to Alaska. We're going to be at a standstill. And so, Dr. Jody, I tell you, it's a big thing, and you're doing a great thing. I know it's a little at a time, and we want it to go faster. But doing stuff like this, us all talking tonight, I think that does
You're trying
make things go a little faster.
I'm trying really hard to get the word out. I'm trying to do my part, Jody.
Well, think about that. Just that genocide from, let's say, our first contact, 1540, which was actually the written. We've had contact way before that. So for our tribe, just our little tribe that still exists. By the way, we are the best resistors you'll ever meet. So I expect us to resist forever, because we never gave up. We never threw down our gun. So we from 1540 to 2025. That's how long our tribe has had this crisis. And in South Carolina, there are many, many tribes that can say the same thing. They were first contact tribes as well, and they continue to have missing and murdered people as well. And where are they reporting them to? They're reporting them to their local police, because we do not have anywhere else to report. Now, with this tribal alliance thing, maybe that will get to they'll get to report. Some of the state tribes will get to report to the federal Catawba database, because there's a treaty. But 1540, and this is 2025 that they signed the treaty. They had to make that up themselves. No government's helping. So what have other tribes done? Let me tell you what other tribes has done. Besides, the most important thing is awareness, because now everyone listening to this is going to go share this with someone and say, did you know that 90% of the people that are missing and murdered women never come home? Yeah. So if they come home, they're dead.
Yeah.
They get to find their body. That's going to be huge. But the other part is that we've got to become visible. And that's what women are doing. They're wearing their red skirts. They're wearing their red hands.
Baby, people are sending me messages. I can't keep up. If you see me looking at my phone and doing stuff, it's because the message is getting out. It is getting out for these people right here. Look at these little faces of these beautiful babies, and they are no longer with us. They're just babies.
Like I said, 29 is the average age, and those girls are way below 29 years old.
Yeah. Another big thing is, just so you know, historically, you go back in time all through everything, and when we talk about genocide, it's just us as a society, we're guilty of it. A lot of people deny genocide.
That's true.
Even over in Germany, genocide was denied, just anything, just with everybody. Nobody wants to believe it. They think it's a story. It's not a story.
It's not.
It is not. And we have to make people more aware. These aren't stories that we're telling. This is truth.
It is an atrocity. Thank you.
Go against. Yeah, exactly.
Well, think about it. If all the stuff that I just told you, I educated you on these statistics and told you about.
I'm sick.
The MMIW epidemic is a health crisis for us, rooted in genocide, systemic racism. That's what the genocide is. It's systemic racism against Native people, systemic racism against us east of the Mississippi for the longest period of time, and colonialism. You put systemic racism, genocide, and colonialism together, what's going to happen? There's going to be invisibility. Colonialism is about creating a fake world of non-reality to look real.
Yeah.
So come on, Indian, go to that school and become a Christian, or come on, you know what I mean? And that's never really ever really happened. They might have converted to Christianity, but there's still their nativeness inside of them.
Yes, you are speaking to the choir right now, because that is
Yeah,
the
you
way
should never
that.
deny. You should never make somebody deny who they are.
Well,
Yes,
we had to
Again,
never,
that's where I'm
never.
saying that's where it blurs the genocide. What you're talking about, systemic racism. People
Yes.
just don't want to think about it. That's not my, people don't want to take, responsibility for what's going on. They don't want to do the work. People just want it easy and just deny that it's there. And that's the problem with our society, whether it be indigenous people on some sides of our country that just want to deny it and just go on, or anybody, this government that we have, or any of those things. People just have to wake up. If we don't wake up, this is just going to keep happening. It could get worse, and that's the sad part of it.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it absolutely is going to get worse because of the government that we have now is creating that. How they're creating a normalcy of systemic racism and genocide. And when you anti-DEI, you're anti-DEI and us, the first people that lived here. This is our country. All of y'all. I'm an immigrant. My father's an immigrant. But my mother, whose people came long time in the 1600s, Scott, Irish, Cherokee. Those are your mix right there,
That's me.
That's because the Scott Irish are clan system tribal people.
Yeah.
They understood our system.
Yep.
So they weren't conquering us. We invited them in. They became the traders. That's how we got the surnames, because we didn't have surnames. We had names like One Toe because you only had one toe, or one toe was missing. It wasn't One Toe Smith, So we very rarely had names like Pretty Princess Golden Eagle Feather. Yeah, those were never, our names were given to us by things that happened in our life. My name was given to me after my dog. Okay, I'm named after my dog. So my medicine name is after my dog. So that if we bring these stories back, we're real instead of myths, instead of Land O'Lakes chick on the butter. I think that was Teata that they put there, who's a very famous Native woman who brought Ojibwa stories to film in when there were no talkies.
Yeah.
So do we know who that Native woman is? Yes, but she's invisible to everybody. She's a token. But if you go and you look her up and you read her story, and I think there's a movie coming out about her, all of a sudden you'll be like, holy cow, that's a Land O'Lakes chick.
Land O'Lakes chick. Oh my God. I think you just created a hashtag. Because that is the truth.
Some of the problem is a lot of these movies that have been out, what is it? The Flowers of the something moon there. Yeah. They Hollywood it up, but people, when they do that, they're missing the whole narrative, what we're talking about. They're missing what's going on. These Native Americans had land, and they had the capacity to live the way they wanted to live, and somebody got jealous and decided to start killing this family off, and that's what it is.
That story was pretty good. I have to tell you, I read that book when it first came out, and the movie was 3 hours because they tried to keep as much as the truth in there. But those Osage, they're from Oklahoma. They got deported off of their land in Oklahoma to some other junky land in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that's the land that had the oil. They got deported and immigrated off of their land just like everybody else did. Because some other natives got immigrated to their land. That was the Cherokee.
Yeah.
So the land that the Osage left was Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation now. And they went to the rock, what they call the rocks and the stones. And that's where there was oil. But I'm going to tell you something about those Osage. They're not that big of a tribe. They're one of the smaller tribes in Pawhuska. They're in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And those Osage, they got targeted by Doge and by this administration. And those Osage had their BIA and their their BIA was shut down and their IHS was shut down on their reservation. They're a federal tribe. So that Friday night they held council. That Saturday morning they started dancing, and they danced all the way till Sunday. And what were they doing? They danced a war dance, and they declared war on a tribe named Doge. They're the first ones. Now, why did that administration pick that tiny little tiny tribe when they had Cherokee Nation with a lot of money and they had big tribes? Why'd they pick that one? Because I don't know, maybe they saw the movie and they thought they had money, or I mean, no reason. There's really no reason.
That's the problem with movies. We're trying to educate people, but then people take advantage.
Right.
You know,
Yes,
they see
yes.
something. Let's take advantage. There was another TV show that was on. It was a series, and it took place in Alaska with Jodie Foster as a police officer.
My friend is the second. My friend is Kaylee Rice. Her mother is my friend, and she was just with me at this conference.
Yeah. And that,
Wow.
you know, there was a supernatural side of it, but the main theme was the monster in these indigenous women going missing. And this takes place at the dark time of Alaska, where it's dark, you know, for like months.
Night detective.
Yeah. And, you know, I watched it and I could see that, but when you look through it, you could see what's going on. But again, you know, when you Hollywood things and it blurs it, are we really getting the message? Kind of, but truthfully, no. People got to do more, you know, and even in Hollywood, it's more, got to have that responsibility.
Well, the thing is that
you're going to do them.
That Kaylee is an MMIW warrior. So she was in a movie. Jodie Foster found her in a movie called Catch the Fire.
Yeah.
A wonderful movie. And in that movie, she's a boxer. Kaylee is a boxer. She's a 3-belt champion here in New England. And her mother, Patricia, is the medicine woman for her tribe. They're Seekonk Wampanoag.
Yeah.
And so Kaylee has been doing the MMIW as part of her boxing. She wears it as her regalia. She wears it in her boxing trunks. She just ran the Boston Marathon with her MMIW information on her. So she talked about this at the conference. I was at the conference last week, and so this is perfect. She talked about keeping the authenticity in that TV show.
Yeah.
As much as they could, because one thing I do know, and I'm going to count on Hollywood for this, is if you look at history, Hollywood has kind of been the non-afraid entity.
Yeah.
To stand up and say, here's 2 boys kissing in the 60s. That's okay. And, you know, so they're informational. It's important, like you said, but it's also a really easy way to bring awareness. And so they were really trying to be very, and she was the person they came to for that information. And so Janice is her aunt. That's how close we are. That's her auntie.
Wow.
Yeah. And the same thing up here. Genocide. It's the same story. It's genocide. Paper genocide. I'm talking about how they made us mulatto in South Carolina when we were Indian. God. They made them up here black. They made them black. They didn't even give them the mulatto. Mulatto is Native American in the South Carolina census. If you're mulatto, you're Native. You're an Indian person. They changed our race designation to erase us. They did the same thing in New England. They made all those natives black when they're not. They shipped most of those folks off to Cape Verde after a massacre. So, you know, we're looking at the paper genocide, the systemic racism, the colonialism. It's the same package. Now, what have other places done? I can tell you in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's my other home. Now South Carolina, Oklahoma. And so in Oklahoma, in the rural lands like Vian, and so Tahlequah's a big city. They don't have a boundary reservation. Okay. They don't have a boundary reservation like the Eastern Cherokee do. Yeah. So what they've done is Walmart, which is one of our favorite places to go as Native people. And one of the reasons in rural places like Oklahoma, you go to Walmart is to get organic food.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, or maybe to buy some clothing. So, but in the Walmart at the where the bathrooms are, there's usually a water fountain, and then the men's and women's bathrooms. They put up posters like Latrina showed, of all the missing people, all the missing Indigenous people with their names and their dates and their height and weight, right there as you walk into the bathroom, because that's a high traffic place and people will see those faces. So I know that the Cherokee Nation, who has money, did that. They put those up, like in Vian, in Stillwell. There's places in Oklahoma that are almost 100% native Cherokee people. That's nowhere close to reservation. The Cookson Mountains, where my elder lived. So that's a way they're starting themselves to. And then we have this Indian network, what we like through Indian Country Today and other news networks of Indian country, that we share these pictures all across Indian country to try and post them coast to coast as soon as we can. In Hawaii has the same problem. It started when? In the late 1800s, when the first colonizers came. Mm-hmm. You know what the man camps are in Hawaii? The Navy. Mm-hmm. That's your man camp. That's who's stealing and murdering the women in Hawaii. They have it. They have a 2022 grant that gave them extra money for statistics. And who there is being stolen more than women and girls? The LGBTQ. And mostly that's the men. The men that are that they have a name. It starts with an M. I'm not Hawaiian, so I'm not even going to try. But those are traditional people. They are traditional to the Hawaiian culture. Yeah. The holy people. They're stealing the holy people.
I want to put one more poster of these little faces, okay? And that is unbelievable, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. And we are out of time, and I have an Indigenous blessing and that I would like to put up. Dr. Noe, you are welcome to come back anytime in any form if you want to have your own podcast about this to get the word out. If you want to just do specials, if you'd like to visit some of our podcasters on their networks and get the word out that way, you are more than welcome to. We are honored to have you on the show. And thank you for all you're doing for our tribe.
I don't know if Tom will let me back on. I didn't let him talk very much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to. I was here to listen and just to throw some stuff out there just for awareness. And being up here in Connecticut, we look at things, we want to look at things a little differently. But a lot of people, all they think about up here is, oh, those are the people that have the casinos. That's their frame of mind, and that's got to change too. There's got to be more education and awareness. Again, so many people deny genocide. They just think it's again, a key word, but they don't realize it's going on everywhere. And,
well, the main thing is, I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The reason why I wanted him to come on, besides that he's a profiler and he also understands the mindset of someone that would be willing and able, and the sickness of this disease of vicious murder and connecting sex and violence in the way that it is. He does the Serial Killer, Supernatural, and Murderers podcast with me and Blaine Rohan and Gwen Johns. And we've been profiling and discussing and dissecting, I'd like to say, some of the most prolific serial killers that we've known.
I've known some personally, by the way.
Really?
One of them was my babysitter. You'll have to interview me on him.
I would love to have you on.
But I wanted to say to Tom, I am vending at the Mohegan Powwow. That's one of the biggest powwows they have out here in August on the 16th and 17th. For the whole weekend, come and visit me. I'm going to be out there with my RV, just like I do for our powwow, and we can sit and chat.
I think that would be great.
Hopefully, I am not somewhere in the world at the time.
He travels a good bit like you.
Myself all over the country, and
Put
hopefully
me in your book.
Yeah.
Then I could tell you about the serial killer that was my babysitter.
Oh my God.
Well,
I got to hear about that.
Jody, you should know that in your lifetime, statistically, you're going to come into contact with 32 serial killers, whether they're directly or indirectly. So the chances of you and your story is mostly for most people.
My serial killer killed my babysitter. My serial killer killed my babysitter. It was
Jeez.
a double babysitter killer. Yeah. I always wanted to write a book about it, but I had other things to do in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gwen says she can't wait to see you at the powwow, Doc. And I want to say thank you also for being my doctor. I have had lots and lots of improvements with what you've put me on. My knee is better. My eyesight is improving. It was something to do with allergies. I was taking allergies, medicine that was over the counter, not medicine, but like supplements. Dr. Noe has worked directly with the people that she recommends for these supplements, and she knows what's in everything, and they're more pure. And something that I was taking within that was causing this. So I was having an allergic reaction, and she was right. So, yeah, we've got, if you got something wrong with you, try the natural remedies first and get with somebody that knows something. Don't just go to Walmart and pull bottles off the shelf, okay, or wherever. Please talk with someone that knows and that knows the supplements. And that's my commercial for you, Dr. Noe.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, I'll say this. I don't know if you can see the screen, and I've got my bifocals on, so I can. I'll say the prayer, and we will be finished with tonight. And like I said, you're welcome anytime. And Thomas, thank you for your help too, so much. This means the world to me. Please be in prayer for these missing and murdered people, their families. The victims are not just the ones that were affected. It also is our culture, our families, our sisters and brothers, the actual families of the people that were victimized. They're suffering too, and there will be a fallout from all of this. And we've got to band together. Remember, it's easier to fall down than it is to stand up, and that's a problem. So my hashtag is be the light. If you don't see the light, be the light. It's because the only way to stop the darkness is to shine a light on it. So, and that's what you're doing. And I thank you so much. And here's our blessing, Dr. Noe. This is Cherokee for peace and for protection. O great spirit who made all races and all sexes, look kindly upon us, the family of man. Protect the weak, guide the strong, and be a shield for those in danger. May your peace settle on our hearts like the morning dew. Aho. And thank you for watching Family Spirit International.
Yeah.
All right. We will be out after the powwow information. All right, and we are out.